Also, we have a few more people joining us. Oh, and Daniel, you're muted. So if you're telling me we're live, I can't hear you.
No, I was just waiting for it to load, but we are live now.
Great. And we are recording. Wonderful. So Ramadan Mubarak, everybody. Happy Ramadan. It is wonderful to see you all and to have you all with us this evening. We are having, this is actually our 5th annual Ramadan Iftar, or Break the Fast. This is the 2nd year that we are doing it virtually. The first 3 years we had it live and in person, and we were able to break bread together and share an amazing iftar dinner, potluck dinner. Fingers crossed, let's all say a collective prayer that next year we will all again be together in person, eating together, praying together, sharing fellowship, getting to know each other, building friendships across faith traditions. For tonight, we are delighted to have you all with us on Zoom. I am not going to speak much longer. I just want to remind everybody, please, if you could mute yourselves and be off video if you are not one of our speakers, so that our speakers can be highlighted, that would be great. Appreciate it very much. So I am going to just introduce our first speaker. I first just want to remind everybody, we are here tonight to celebrate Ramadan, to learn about Ramadan, to learn about the Muslim custom of zakat. And this evening is also the kickoff of a month-long fundraiser that we are doing for Second Harvest Food Bank. So throughout the entire month of Ramadan, between now and May 12th, we are taking donations online, and I will put the URL in the chat. As our Muslim siblings are engaged in their sacred fast for this month, we also remember those in our community whose fast is neither voluntary nor temporary. And so we want to honor them throughout the month of Ramadan by donating to Second Harvest Food Bank. We've already raised $1,500 before we even started with our tonight's kickoff. So thank you all so much for those who've already donated. And if you have not yet donated, please do. We have a goal of raising $4,000 between now and May 12th. And we have an anonymous donor who has offered to match that an additional $1,000, so that we will have a total of $5,000 to donate to Second Harvest to help families in our community who are struggling with hunger during this pandemic and this economic crisis. So I'm going to turn us over to our first speaker tonight, who I am just so excited to hear from, and so grateful to him for taking the time tonight at the end of his day of fasting to be with us. So I'm welcoming Lamine Cisse, who is one of the imams at the Islamic Center of East Madison. Lamine is also a nurse, surgical nurse at Meriter Hospital. He's from Gambia. He's been in the United States for about 10 years and studied nursing at UW. And is going to speak to us about Ramadan and zakat. So Lamine, I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bonnie, and other members of this organization for inviting me to speak on the basis of Ramadan and zakat in Islam as well. I thank you all for your dedication to caring for others who are in need in our community. Ramadan and zakat, is one of the principles and pillar of Islam. So Islam has 5 main pillars in which all Muslims go by to make sure they establish or do these actions. So one of the pillars, or 2 of the pillars, we have Ramadan and zakat among the 5 pillars. So in our concept as Muslims, a person will not be a complete believer or a complete Muslim unless if they enforce and adapt to the act of fasting the month of Ramadan and also give zakat to people who need it. So we take this reference from the Quran, the holy book of the Muslims that we believe was revealed to Prophet Muhammad. It's a prophet that came after Jesus. So God has told us in the Quran and the holy book, "Oh, you who have believed, fasting is prescribed unto you as it was prescribed unto people before you, so you may become righteous." So one of the reasons that Muslim fast the month of Ramadan is to adapt or to become righteous. You know, righteousness is very important in Islamic faith, and fasting is one of those that we find that comfort, we find that connection between us and our Lord. It is also a month of self-discipline by reinforcing good morals and conducts towards others and spread kindness despite the challenges that come with fasting. And we all know when you're hungry, your brain even cannot function normally. So this is a challenge to all the Muslims to know what it means to be in a hunger and how to be self-disciplined as well. So it is you know, that we fast in order to gain this benefit and also to build a greater connection to our Lord. And also it is a month that in which our holy book, the Quran, was revealed to our Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel. And it is something that we value a lot because Quran is something that gave us guidance and it gave us like resources on how to live our life and how to, you know, to function as a human being. It is a ritual that is observed every once in a year. Sometimes it can go all the way 29 or 30 days. So it starts from sunrise to sunset, and all Muslims are allowed to drink and eat at night without no limitations. So this is one of the basics about Ramadan. Due to the time constraints, I will just kind of talk about some of the major concepts so we can all understand. So this is what, if you hear about Ramadan, it is something that all Muslims has to, like, they have to do it because it is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. So talking about zakah is very, very important. In Islam, giving a zakat is actually compulsory. It is obligatory act of giving from your wealth to those who are less fortunate than you. You have to give part of your money that you own and give it to those who are in need, because Islam came in a way to teach people to care others as well. No one should be having a lump amount of money in their bank account without giving it out to others, knowing that others are struggling around their environment. This is something that Islam prohibits. Islam wants you to take part of that money and give it to people that who need it. So this is the main reason that we give a zakat. It is the 3rd pillar of Islam. So zakah is the 3rd pillar of Islam, and fasting is the 4th pillar of Islam. So our Prophet Muhammad is an example to humanity, and we adapt his ways, his habits, his conduct, and his empathy towards others. So talking about zakah, we are urged to give as our Prophet has given to others, especially in the month of Ramadan. So I've read in a scripture that said Prophet Muhammad is, you know, he gives a lot. But Angel Gabriel was saying, narrating that was saying that when he visited Prophet Muhammad in the month of Ramadan, he gives more than he used to be in other months. So meaning in the month of Ramadan, he give more of what he used to give to people who need it. So it is important for Muslims to acknowledge the fact of the matter is we have to care about others. We have to be conscious about our surrounding. If we're enjoying good, we should also aim for our neighbors also to enjoy the same pleasure. So as we were told from the scripture that was narrated by the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, is they said, Prophet Muhammad, the most generous of all, would reach the peak of generosity in the month of Ramadan. So Prophet Muhammad give charity to people, give charity and the zakat to people in the month of Ramadan that he used to give in the other months. And one of these principles that I like to make clear to people, there is two types of charity. So the charity that is compulsory, this is a zakah that you're taking out of your wealth every year, once every year. But the charity is something that you can give any time of the year, but it's much more beneficial and much more rewarding if you give it in the month of Ramadan. So for that, I think we all have the same mission in trying to reach, extend our hand to other peoples who probably are less fortunate than most of us, so we can help those people to also have something or food on their table. So this is one of the basics that Ramadan that I would like to share. But inshallah, if you have any questions at all, you want any clarifications, I will explain those concepts as well. Yep.
Thank you so much. So if anybody has any questions, if you want to just type them in the chat, that would be great. So while we wait and see if anybody types anything in, so you said zakat and fasting on Ramadan are two of the pillars of Islam. What are the other three?
So the other three is to establish the oneness, to know that God is one, and Prophet Muhammad is a prophet like other prophets, Prophet Moses, Prophet Isa, we call it Jesus, Prophet Dawood, Prophet Salman, and all these prophets. Prophet Muhammad is one of them. To acknowledge that and to understand that, that is the number one pillar. And the second one is to establish the 5 daily prayers. We have certain times in the day that we pray 5 times, and every Muslim has to observe this in ways that are taught by our Prophet Muhammad. So the third is to give us zakah. To give us zakah, and this is mostly the time in Ramadan we give zakah. So we calculate, for example, 2.5% of whatever you have in your savings the whole year, you give it out to as charity. So this is the concept of giving us zakah. In the other hand, there is also a charity which is not compulsory, which comes from your heart, something you can give any time of the year, and you can give as much as you can. That's the optional aspect of it. But the obligation part is the zakah, that you have to get it out of your wealth in order to purify your wealth. And this is the concept of Islam. They said, if you do not give charity or zakah out of your wealth, then your wealth, it means that it's considered impure, because it contains parts of it that should be given out to people who probably need it. So this is one of the concepts about the zakah. So the fourth is fasting the month of Ramadan. You fast the month of Ramadan if you are able to. And if you're sick, you say, for example, there are conditions. If you are sick, you cannot fast the month of Ramadan. You can wait for the upcoming months when you feel better. You can fast the month of Ramadan. If you cannot fast because older age with sickness, then you give charity to other people that will serve you as fasting the month of Ramadan. And the last pillar, the fifth, is to visit the house pilgrimage in Mecca. You visit that once you have the resources to visit the Mecca. And this is something that is obligatory unto you when you have the resources. You have to go and visit the house. That's the holy house that was built by Prophet Abraham and his son, Prophet Ismail. So it is a house that has been there for forever, and every generation comes to acknowledge it. And we are urged as Muslims to visit this house and complete the rituals one time in our life.
Is the charity only given to other Muslims or to the wider community?
So the charity could be given to anyone. It could be given to anyone in your environment. It does not segregate who gets the charity. So the reward comes from you. The fact of you giving, the reward comes from you, get the reward. And whoever you give it, that doesn't matter at all. So you can give it to anyone around your environment, around the people who are needy around you. Yep.
The month of Ramadan is very important and well known. Are there other seasons of the Islamic year that are set aside to celebrate or observe other important elements of the faith?
Very good question. So Ramadan is one of those, and also we have other months that we do sacrifice. You sacrifice a lamb in the name of God, and you take part of the lamb, the meat, and give it out as charity. and also cook some of the meat and celebrate with your family. These are the two festivals we have in a year that all Muslims celebrate and that are so important that we acknowledge this each and every year. So these are the only two. But there are, for example, there are days that are so significant to our Prophet Muhammad that you can observe as optional. For example, fasting Mondays and Thursdays, optional act of worship that if you can do it, it is better because the Prophet Muhammad used to fast every Monday and Thursday. And even being in healthcare, we learned that there are some sort of benefits, even fasting a couple of days in a year, for health-wise. So this is something that we adapt from Prophet Muhammad as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your being here with us tonight and sharing with us, and I hope that you'll be with us in person next year. We have other questions, but I also know that we want to end by 7:45, so our Muslim siblings who are fasting can break their fast. So if we have time at the end, we'll come back to some of the other questions. But I wanted to ask Chris Tazalar from Second Harvest Food Bank to share with us a few words about the work that they do and why it's so important for us to be donating to them at this time.
Yeah, well, Rabbi Bonnie, thank you so much for having me join you tonight, and I'm honored to be presenting just along with Lutfi, and certainly really just grateful that you have chosen Second Harvest to raise some money for during Ramadan. So thank you so much. I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of who Second Harvest is, and then get into kind of how we have changed or morphed really since the pandemic. So Second Harvest, we are a food bank, and our service area is 16 counties here in southwestern Wisconsin. And the reason why I like to kind of focus on food bank is that we are different from a food pantry. And really the difference is we don't have people who are struggling with hunger come and get food directly from us. They actually go through some of our partner agencies and programs like food pantries in order to get that direct help. And so that's really a big difference between being a food bank and being a food pantry. So, and that's also something that not everybody understands, is that difference between the two. So I wanted to make sure I touched on that just a little bit. Again, I mentioned we cover 16 counties here in southwestern Wisconsin. We go all the way down to the Illinois border and all the way over to the Minnesota border. There are three primary ways that we end hunger. And one is probably the way that everybody kind of knows us for, and that's our food distribution. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of how much food we distribute when I talk about kind of our response to the pandemic. But we do that food distribution through more than 225 partner agencies and programs throughout the 16 counties that we serve. And that's really the kind of the program that everybody knows us for. And the second program is our food share outreach. And food share, not everybody knows what food share is. It's part of the National SNAP program, which is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And again, not everybody even knows what that is, but they'll probably recognize what it used to be referred to, and that was the food stamp program. So that is what food share here is here in Wisconsin. It's the old food stamp program. So what we do is we have our food share outreach specialists out in the community. Usually when it's not a pandemic, we have the community, we educate them on what food share is, what are some of the benefits, what are some of the requirements, and how you apply for things. And we help them apply so that they can get some of those benefits that they earn. So we have our food distribution, and then we have our food share outreach. And then the last way we help end hunger is really what we call mobilizing the public. And frankly, being on this presentation is an example of me mobilizing the public. It's helping the public understand that hunger exists, and that we are here as an organization to help those who are struggling with hunger. It's all of our work on social media. It's reaching out and talking to media. It's really all about trying to keep those who are facing hunger kind of top of mind, so for folks, so they they know how to help, they know who they're helping. And so that's really the idea of mobilizing the public. So you have our food distribution, you have our food share outreach, and then you've got our mobilizing the public. So how has that been impacted since the pandemic? The reality is, like everybody else, the way that we do things is 180 degrees different from the way we did things prior to the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, we really were focused on, and we really wanted to live up to what we refer to as a choice model, where the folks who are struggling with hunger, they can go to a partner agency, they can walk through the aisles just like they're walking through a grocery store and pick out the items that they want and not have to take items that they don't want. But as you can imagine, with all of the safety protocols and the health protocols that have come with the pandemic, we could no longer do that. And so we had to go to a pre-boxed model where everything was pre-boxed. And we couldn't even have people necessarily get out of their cars in order to come get those boxes. So we would set up mobile food pantries where it would be a drive-up kind of system where people could drive up, they pop their trunks, we'll put in a couple of boxes of food in their trunk, kind of close it off, and off they went. And so that is drastically different from the way that we used to do it. Things have gotten incredibly more expensive. As you can imagine, those boxes, we've distributed over 717,000 boxes of food since the middle of March 2020. Those boxes are not inexpensive just to pay for the box. Food has gotten more expensive. Our ratios of donated food to the food that we have to purchase, it used to be 80-20 donated to purchase, and now it's about 50-50. So many things, similar to everybody else, many things have gotten much more expensive as a result of the pandemic. Now, speaking about the how much food we've distributed, when we go back to, we really kind of put the start date at March 15th of 2020. And between March 15th of 2020 and April 2nd of 2021, we distributed about 19.6 million pounds of food. And that by far is the most food we've ever distributed. In fact, it's actually about 50% more than the amount we distributed prior to the pandemic during that same time period. So we are trying to meet that need. And clearly in the beginning of the pandemic, the need was significantly greater from the beginning. And it was about a 61% increase in the number of people struggling with food insecurity. A few months later, it had dropped down to about 40%. And now we're at about 13%, according to some of the numbers that we've seen out of Feeding America. So the track of those numbers is good, but the reality is that's still 125,000 people here in southwestern Wisconsin who struggle with hunger. And many of those folks never struggled with hunger. They never had to use the emergency food system prior to the pandemic. So those are the folks that we are out there to try to help. And the reality is there's no one face of hunger. There's young, there's old, there's white, there's people of color, there's all religions. There is no one face or faith or whatever kind of demographic you can think of. There is no one face of hunger. And so, and many people will ask us, well, how do you determine who gets your help? The reality is that determination is made by people who are willing to stand in line and suffer kind of the looks, the stigma that still exists around people who are asking for help. So the way we see it is that if somebody is willing to stand in line, or in the case since the pandemic, they're willing to sit in line in their car to ask for help and get for help, honestly, we figure that that's enough for us. So I know we wanted to leave a little bit of time for any questions that may have come up. So I'm certainly willing to answer any questions that you have. Rabbi Bonnie, I think I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. And I've put in the chat the link to our donation page for Second Harvest. I know a few people have already donated tonight. Thank you so very much for that. So if people have questions for Chris, or if you didn't get a chance earlier to type in your question for Lamine, we have a couple of minutes. And Lamine, somebody did write earlier They wanted to know, what is it like practicing Ramadan in a place where Islam is not the major religion?
This is a very good question. Islam is a faith that goes into any environment. It goes into any society or any situation you're in. So it is. I don't see that much of a difference. Fasting Ramadan in Gambia and in America. The most important thing is you let the people know around you how this is done, how you're fasting. Just let the people know about some of the restrictions that you can and you can't do. For me personally, I talk to my managers. I tell them, I am fasting and this is how it goes. This is how I break my fast, at least to kind of educate the people around me. But, apart from that, I don't see any difference fasting in Africa and fasting in America. So basically it's up to, you, how you just, go about it.
Are people pretty understanding and pretty open?
Yeah. And, these days I've been talking about it a lot at work and, even from patients, I talk to patients about Ramadan and, people are interested to know, to learn about, other cultures. And I appreciate that. I mean, I'm the kind of feel that I can spread the word intercultural, like this intersectionality that we have within different faiths to kind of like talk to it and educate each other about it. I think it's very, very important that, and I realize that people really want to learn. They really want to learn. And when you tell them, they ask questions and, yeah.
Great. Steve Holmes wants to know, it's a great question, Steve. What is the path to becoming an imam?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, how does one become an imam?
Okay, it is like to gain a necessary knowledge, basically be competent with the Quran and its interpretation, and also, yeah, that's the major thing. So there are other things that you can be fluent and be competent with, but the most important thing is be versed in the Quran and knowing the translations about certain verses in the Quran or most of the verses in the Quran. So this is one of the key concepts that if a person attains this, then they qualify to become an imam. So if there is another person who attained different qualifications despite knowing the Quran, and the person knows other aspects of the religion, then that person become more qualified than you are. So it goes like that. But the Quran, knowing the Quran is the fundamental. Yeah.
Thank you. So one last question, and then I will let you go and break your fast. How does Ramadan differ in different parts of the Muslim world?
I think this is something that we all like. We say back home in Africa, Islam is like, for example, like the excitement, because you see like the whole environment, the whole community is like celebrating or fasting together. And you can tell like everybody is fasting and the culture, the rituals are like very special, like every other compound is like cooking some special meal and people are doing it together. So the difference with that is if you're in a place or community that is like has more Muslims, you get to feel the how to call it. You get to feel the breeze of Ramadan and the excitement in the face of people, and you get to be involved, within the rituals. So it's different when we are like, when we come to the mosque. The only time we're together when we come to the mosque, we realize that we're all fasting, we get the excitement. But for the most part, I think the excitement aspect of it is what makes it different from, Muslim country and non-Muslim countries. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to Lamin and to Chris for being with us tonight. Everybody, please do donate generously. As you heard, the need is great. Ramadan Mubarak to you, Lamin, and to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Everybody have a wonderful, easy and fulfilling fast. And we look forward to being together in person next year. As I said, this event has been recorded and will be on Facebook and will be on Wisconsin Faith Voices for Justice's YouTube channel. Please share widely over the next month, help to educate our non-Muslim brothers and sisters about Ramadan, about Islam, about Zakat, and about the need for donations to Second Harvest. Thank you all so very, very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.